A few days later, having arrived back in England, Jox McNabb marched up to the board sentry at the gates of RAF Debden. He returned the Snowdrop's smart salute. The red and white striped barrier was lifted to let him through, and an RAF police corporal accompanied him to the guardhouse. He asked Jox to wait while he telephoned the officer of the watch to announce the flight lieutenant's arrival. "He'd like to speak with you, sir," said the corporal, passing the phone to Jox. "Welcome back to RAF Debden, sir," said the voice on the line. "I believe you were stationed here during the first summer of the war. It's a great honour to have you back, sir. I'm really looking forward to meeting you in the mess." Jox was unused to being addressed quite so formally, and for that matter effusively. Things had certainly changed at Debden since the chaos of the Battle of Britain. Coming straight from the even greater shambles of Malta, everything here seemed rather stiff and excessively formal. Jox peered through the grimy windows of the guardhouse at the view of winding taxiways that framed Debden's crossed runways. In the middle distance there were a few shabby brick buildings, with a few taller, more impressive ones with sandstone columns, which served as official HQ buildings. Unusually for a fighter aerodrome, several large trees were growing alongside the roads, separated by mown lawns, but also larger expanses of longer grass on either side of the runways. Beyond the perimeter fence, he spotted woodlands, grazing stock and fields of winter barley. The corporal returned to his post at the south gate, after giving Jox a second crisp regulation salute. He'd expected nothing less from a military policeman, always sticklers for the rules. He hadn't been back at his barrier for very long, when up it went again to let through an anthracite-coloured Hellman Minx staff car. It parked in a reserved spot where a little placard announced that the space was reserved for the CO of No.111 Squadron. Intrigued, Jox peered out the glass of the sentry office at what he realised must be his new boss. "Hello, here's the old man now," said the WAF typist from behind him. Jox watched a tall, slim man with film star good looks extricate long limbs from the cramped car. He had dark hair and such high cheekbones that he looked a little gaunt. He reached back into the vehicle, pulled out an old rag, and began wiping squashed insects from his windscreen. He took his time, stopping every now and again to admire his progress. Once satisfied, he punched the rag into shape and promptly placed it upon his head. It was in fact his service cap, and a rather greasy, tatty-looking one at that. He wore it perched on the back of his head with a fringe of hair visible at the front, like some farmer or cowboy out of a western flick. The CO then looked about, shrugged, and walked off with his hands in his pockets, whistling. What an odd thing to do, thought Jox. The CO was clearly fastidious, but obviously didn't take himself too seriously, unlike his predecessor. Brochy had always been a bit of a martinet. Jox wondered why the powers thought his new CO wasn't getting a good grip on the squadron. The next few months would certainly be interesting.